Hello everybody, in today's video I will be assessing the accessibility of two generative AI tools, the tools being ChatGPT and Google Gemini. I'll be demonstrating what it's like to use these apps while using the screen reader voiceover. It's Apple's screen reader on the iPhone. And we'll just go through some of the settings, some of the options, see if there's any incorrectly labeled buttons, buttons that aren't labeled at all, and just the overall usability of both of these apps. So in front of me, I'm holding my iPhone. I'm using my Ray-Ban Meta glasses to record this video, so the perspective is from my face looking down at my phone. I am holding my phone on a blank desk, and I am also wearing an Apple Watch. Okay, so now I have the ChatGPT app open. I've turned down the speaking rate just a little bit so that it's a little bit easier for you to understand with the screen reader on. So what I will be doing is a single finger swipe right or left to go through all the buttons and see if there's any that are mislabeled, not labeled at all, and just see what the overall usability of this app is. So I will start with a single finger swipe right.
Dictation button.
Okay, dictation, so that's where I can dictate a question or prompt.
Switch to voice button.
Voice, that's where I can actually talk to the ChatGPT like I'm talking to a person.
Tap Q.
Okay, that's where we start to get into the keyboard. So now I will do a single finger swipe left.
Switch to voice. Dictation. New message. Text field is editing. Character mode. Insertion point at start.
Okay, so that's the text field where I can type in a prompt or question.
Add button.
I assume that's where I can add either a photo, a video, to add into this prompt.
Count the number of items in an image button. Make a recommendation based on my data button. Write an email to request a quote from local plumbers button. Create an image for my presentation button.
Okay, so I assume that
Temporary create an image.
I assume that
button.
these are sample prompts.
New temporary chat button.
Okay.
Upgrade button. Menu button.
Okay, let's go into menu.
Menu.
What I just did was a single finger double tap to go into that menu. So now I will continue with my single finger swipe right to see if there's any buttons that are incorrectly or not labeled.
Search button. Open AI/icon/wordmark standalone button. Open settings button. Image projects button. Images button. Apps button. Upgrade button. Once you start chatting, your conversations will appear here. New chat button.
Okay, let's go into new chat. I'm going to do a single finger double tap.
New chat. Create an image for my presentation button. Write an email. Make a recommendation. Count the number of add button. New message. Text field is editing. Word mode. Insertion point at start.
All right, so we're in the new message. So I'm going to use
dictation button.
Dictate. So now I will double tap on dictation. What is the capital of California?
Stop. Q. Stop. New message. Text field is editing. What is the capital of California? Word mode. Insertion point at end.
Okay, so now I'm going to send that.
Dictation button. Send button.
Double tap.
Send. What is the capital of California? The capital of California. Chat. / generic entity. Number equals 0. Is **. Sacramento. Chat. / generic entity. Number equals 1. **. Classical building. Fun fact. Even though many people think it might be Los Angeles. Chat. / generic entity. Number equals 2. Or San Francisco. Chat. / generic entity. Number equals 3. Because they're bigger. The state government is actually based in Sacramento. Bridge at night pictorial card. Round pushpin.
Okay, so as you heard, that answer was a little bit odd. I'm not sure why, so I'm going to single finger swipe to the answer.
The capital of California is Sacramento. Classical building. Fun fact, even though many people think it might be Los Angeles or San Francisco because they're bigger, the state government is actually based in Sacramento.
One of the usability issues that I've run into while using a screen reader and using ChatGPT is that when it provides a response, it provides it as a singular entity. So if you wanted to listen to something at the very bottom of the response, you would have to start from the top. So for this example, I asked ChatGPT something that would give me a longer response. So I asked it, what is Braille? Now, it provided quite a lengthy response. So if I wanted to listen to something at the very bottom, I would have to start from the very top. Now, there is a way around this by using the rotor. The rotor is a voice-over quick settings menu in which you can access some voiceover settings quickly. So I could listen to this response either word by word, character by character, but what I want to do is listen to it line by line. So to access the rotor, I'm going to use my fingers on the iPhone screen, similar to like I'm turning a dial.
Headings. Speaking rate, 50 lines.
Okay, so there's lines. So now this should break up the response a little bit better. So what I can use is a single finger swipe up or down, and that should break up the response.
Braille is a tactile reading and writing system used by people who are blind or visually impaired. Instead of letters you see, it uses raised dots that you feel with your fingertips. Raised hand. Bullet. Each character is made from a cell. Bullet. Different combinations of raised dot. Bullet. You read it by moving your fingers. For example,
I can navigate the response bullet by bullet, which makes it a lot more easy to digest rather than the entirety of the response in one shot. All right, and for the last part of this usability/accessibility assessment, I'm going to go to voice mode and ask a question that way.
Switch to voice. Switch add button.
What is Braille?
Braille is a tactile writing system used by people who are blind or visually impaired.
Braille is a tactile writing system used by people who are blind or visually impaired. It was developed by Louis Braille in the 19th century. New message. N.
So as you saw there, the ChatGPT voice was speaking over the screen reader. Now, this used to not be an issue. It became an issue when they updated the app about 6 months or so ago. Now, there is a way around this as well. You could use a 2-finger tap to quiet your screen reader, or you can use a 3-finger double tap to turn off speech.
Speech off.
That would allow the ChatGPT voice to give you the response without your screen reader reading it as well. Overall, the ChatGPT app on the iPhone while using VoiceOver is fairly accessible. Everything seems to be labeled properly. There are no buttons that are mislabeled. The overall usability of ChatGPT, specifically while using VoiceOver on an iPhone, is a different story. For the user to really work the app effectively and efficiently, it really requires a more advanced knowledge of VoiceOver, specifically some additional gestures and the rotor, which not all VoiceOver users understand initially. So overall, I would give the accessibility a score of 3.5 out of 5 and the usability a 2.5 out of 5, giving ChatGPT an overall score of 3 out of 5. Okay, so now I will assess the accessibility and usability of Google Gemini. I'll do something similar to what I did with ChatGPT. I'll use a single finger swipe right or left to go through the options and see if there's any buttons that aren't labeled, and go from there.
I'm ready to help you plan, study, bring ideas to life and more. Picture in a frame, create image, button. Guitar, create music, button.
Okay, so these are sample.
Write anything, button.
These are sample prompts.
Stack of books, help me learn. Sparkles, boost my day. Ask Gemini, text field.
The text field so that I can ask a prompt or submit a question.
Add attachment, button.
Can add an attachment.
Tools, button.
Okay.
Button.
All right, so there's our first unlabeled button.
Tools, button.
So if you hear that, that one says tools, button.
Button.
This just says button.
Microphone, button.
And there's a microphone. So there is a workaround, and it's by also using the rotor. So again, I will put my fingers on the iPhone like I'm turning a dial, and I'm gonna look for screen recognition.
Characters, headings, screen recognition, off.
All right, so I'm gonna do a single finger swipe up to turn it on.
I'm ready to help you play on.
Okay, so now that we have screen recognition on, let's go down.
Ask Gemini. Class, add. Fast.
Okay, so it saw it as fast. I'm not really sure what that means, but with screen recognition on, it can recognize some things that the screen reader might not recognize with it off. Okay, so let's go into some of the other options.
Account and settings. Signed in as Daniel Milan. Start temporary chat button. Gemini button. Sidebar button.
All right, let's go into sidebar. I'm going to double tap.
Search for chats. Text field. New chat button. My stuff button. Head gems button. Heading. No saved chats. Recent chats will appear here so you can pin, rename, and continue the button.
Okay, so there's another mislabeled button. I'm going to double tap this to see what it does.
Sidebar button. Gemini button. Start temporary account and settings.
Okay, so it brought me back to the main screen. All right, so let's ask Google Gemini a question. And to make this fair, I'll ask the same question that I asked ChatGPT. So I'm on the microphone. I'm going to double tap.
Selected. Microphone.
What is Braille?
Sidebar button.
Braille is a tactile writing system used by people
Gemini replied.
blind or visually impaired. It is not a language in itself. Rather, it is a code that allows users to read and write languages like English, Spanish, or Chinese through touch. How it works. The system is based on cells, consisting of 6 raised dots.
What is Braille?
arranged in a
Heading.
3
Pause.
times 2
Button. Read response out loud.
Okay, so I paused that response because I know it's probably lengthy. But let's see if we can navigate through this response easily or if it's going to require some additional steps.
Braille is a tactile writing system used by people who are blind or visually impaired. It is not a language in itself. Rather, it is a code that allows users to read and write languages like English, Spanish, or Chinese through touch. How it works. Heading. The system is based on cells consisting of 6 raised dots arranged in a 3\2 grid. Feature. Description. The cell. The basic unit, consisting of up to 6 dots.
Okay, so as you see here, this is actually sectioned off by headings, which makes it a lot easier for me to navigate while using a screen reader. It organizes it a lot better, so I don't have to listen to the entire response from top to bottom, and I don't have to go into the rotor to find some sort of workaround to be able to use this response. Okay, now let's assess the accessibility and usability of the live mode. So this will be like we're talking to Google Gemini like it's a person. So I'm going to double tap.
Talk lip.
What is Braille?
Braille is a writing system used by people who are blind or visually impaired. It uses raised dots arranged in small cells, and readers can feel those dots with their fingertips to read letters, numbers, and punctuation. Is there anything specific you'd like to know about it?
End conversation. Button.
Okay, so I ended the conversation, but overall, that was pretty nice. I mean, the live mode wasn't talking over my screen reader, which was great, unlike ChatGPT. So I would say the usability of that feature is pretty good. So overall, the accessibility of Google Gemini was pretty good. There were those couple of buttons that weren't labeled. There is a workaround through the rotor, but again, that requires a more advanced knowledge of VoiceOver and its features, so that could be a barrier to some. Now, the overall usability, I would say Google Gemini is a lot more usable than ChatGPT, at least while I'm using VoiceOver on the iPhone. It was fairly easy to use. My screen reader wasn't competing with the actual live chat, which was great. So overall, I would say the accessibility for Google Gemini is a 3 and the usability is a 4, giving the overall score a 3.5 out of 5.